Welcome back to all my listeners to Crafting a Meaningful Life. That's what we're here to do today, is we're here to help all of us, including me, craft that meaningful life, that one that you never get to the end and you say, wow, if only I had, or I regret that I didn't. Those have to be the worst words in the human language. And we're not going to allow that to happen to us. We are going to be living each life to the fullest, each day filled with our best selves. So to that end, I have a guest for you today, Paige Clark. Welcome, Paige.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on today. You live close to me. A lot of my guests are around the country, but you live right here in Utah where I live. So welcome, closeness.
Yes. I love you. I love living in Utah. And
I do too.
Happy making that I live near you.
I moved here, well over 50 years ago to go to school, to go to college, and just never left. I just fell in love with this state and the mountains and the people and the Red Rock country and the safe life that we have. I really love this place, and it's changed obviously over the last 52 years, but still there's this sense here of safety. Is that right? Is it safety that I feel?
It's community, it's safety, it's beauty. I think there's just a really high vibration here. There are people that are trying to live good lives and surrounded by so much nature that I think it just grounds people. I love living in Utah.
Me too. All right. So listeners, I want you to know and understand why I wanted Paige on this podcast. So I'm going to read something to you. I don't normally do that. I'm just going to read a little bit and you'll get why I wanted Paige on here. Paige's work has empowered countless individuals to unlock their potential and spiral up into the lives they love. Now, isn't that what you want from a podcast? Don't you want someone to come along and help you unlock that potential inside of you, to help you spiral up, to find this life that you know is inside of you? So, Paige, let's start right there. How do you help people do that?
Well, the biggest part is I help people reprogram their mind. So there's 3 basic ways, and I love how in your book you talk about the first way, which is repetition. And it's those affirmations, it's those ways that if we repeat something enough, our minds will actually create new neural pathways. And so we can actually reprogram our mind, and that's one of the ways. The other way is through a heightened emotional state. So a trauma, a war, abuse, even just being in a room with 10,000 people like Tony Robbins or something, like huge amount of emotion and intensity, that can reprogram the brain. But the third way is through a voice of authority, or how I like to have you reprogram the mind is through your own voice of authority. And the way that you find that is through going into theta state, which is a really powerful state where you're in flow state, where you have access to your subconscious mind, where you have access to all the memories, all the experiences you've had, all the things you've learned, but isn't really on the surface of that conscious mind. And so we go in and we reprogram it, and then afterwards create affirmations to then have a consistent reprogramming after the sessions. So I work with people and basically do that. It's quite powerful. And one of the things that I love that you talk a lot about are these different parts. And I do a lot of parts therapy. But you talked about like the fearful one, right? Or the part that's not enough, or the perfectionist, or your higher self, or the warrior spirit. Like, we touch on these archetypes and these parts that are within us in these sessions, and then you get to reprogram the parts that aren't serving us and empower and embody and feel into the parts that you want to be leading your life. Yeah.
And the thing that at this point that I can tell you, Paige, is that it is a process that never ends. like there were different points in my life when I thought, oh, okay, now I understand. I got it. And then I just, went on, and all of a sudden I was caught up in something again that I thought I had dealt with. And so there's that, but the difference is now I'm more aware and I recognize it much sooner. But at age 70, I still know that there are parts of me yet to be discovered. Now think how exciting that is. Because most people at age 70 think, okay, well, I guess this is it, and I'm just going to, do on that plane until the great sky opens up for me. And that, I never want to be there. I want to be someplace where that there's something for me around the next corner. And maybe it is that, okay, it's not going to be that you're going to climb Kilimanjaro again or another peak, but it's how you deal with aging, how I deal with grace, how I deal with different people's relationships around me who are shifting all the time because I'm no longer in the workforce, because I'm no longer this and I'm not this. And so what am I now? That constant embodiment of growth allows every phase to be phenomenal.
What I love about this concept of we keep coming around, it's never ending. But in your intro of me, you said, I help people spiral up into lives that they love. My website is The Life That You Love, but it's really about spiraling up. And what I've found is a lot of times, when you're spiraling down, it's bad enough. Yeah. Changing the trajectory takes effort. And it's a lot of that first time, that first few weeks of going to the gym will probably way harder than a year or two later, right? When your momentum was up. But then you get to these points on the circle where you feel like you're at the same place. And you're like, what? I've done this work already. I've been here before. This is so frustrating. But if you can pause and you can get still, you can realize, oh, I'm a notch higher, or I'm 10 notches higher. And actually, I'm getting through it way faster this time, right? And so there's this spiral idea of work. You come back to those same places and you think, oh, I've gone through victimhood, or I'm no longer in a place of I'm choosing love, and I understand what fear is. But then you get back to that fearful place and you're like, what? Yeah. I've done this already.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. And then you keep coming around and you get through it faster, right? You get through it with more ease. You choose love easier. You have more compassion for yourself. So we are, if we can actually look at the big picture, we are spiraling up. We're getting to higher places when we're in a conscious place.
I love that, and that it's in a constant flow. You talked about something during the first part of the podcast that I really want to spend a lot of meat into, because there's so much here. This is where I'm going to get lost with you. You talked about helping people get into this theta mode. Now, my mind has been working through this a lot lately, and I've been pondering it, and I've realized that there are many modalities to help people reach that. For me, with my daily meditations, I can tell that when I have gone into a different place. Now, I do a lot of meditations on a daily basis that are just in this and I love them. They bring me always to a point of gratitude. But then there are those that are something different, where I am transported to almost a different realm. I don't know quite how to say that, where I feel like whatever I ask can be shown me, because everything I want to know is already here inside of me.
Well, that's the beauty of theta. Is I started out as a business coach, and I was doing work just, coaching, and they would tell me what's going on, and I was going, well, this is according to all of the studies, and this is what you can do in this situation. And they'd come back and they just hadn't done all the stuff, even though in the session I'd be like, oh my gosh, and they were totally on board, I'm 100% going to do that, right? And then I started to do this work where they were finding the answers within them, And they would come back 100% of the time because it was them saying, I need, someone that wanted to lose 100 pounds or 50 pounds or whatever it was. They come up with, I need to go swimming. And I wouldn't have known that that's what they need to do. But swimming was the way. I need to not go to Arby's every day. I don't know that they go to Arby's every day, but they know all of the little intricacies. And so when they get into that state where they really get still, and theta is there's so many ways to get into it. There's hypnosis, there's meditation, there's EMDR, there's tons of different ways that work.
I'm sorry, I don't know what EMDR is.
It's like a psychology method where they use rapid eye movement to
okay, yep.
And so it's an effective way of dealing with trauma and that kind of thing. So anyway, we have.
And what method do you use? How do you help people get into that theta space?
It's guided imagery, and it's very similar to hypnosis. It's taking people into a physically relaxed state so that their mind can open up. Yeah. And how I describe theta is like you're in and out of it all the time. You wake up in the morning and your body's totally relaxed in bed and your mind turns on. That's theta. You're driving and all of a sudden you get to where you're supposed to, like you're trying to get to, and all of a sudden you're in your subconscious took over and your conscious mind was thinking about something else. So that's a theta state, and we're in and out all the time. But if we can consciously take ourselves into that or be guided into that, then we can be really intentional about finding those visualizations or accessing that information that you're looking for or meeting those parts. So I often say after our sessions, like when you're doing your affirmations, do this in the morning and in the evening. Use those powerful times when you're naturally in theta. And that's why morning and evening are really powerful times to do your routines and all that stuff, because you're getting to this place where your body's relaxing, where your mind is still active, and you can reprogram the mind in those spaces easier.
So I find that when I do try to move into that theta space in the morning and in the evening, that it's very different, though. The morning seems to be more about reminding myself and programming myself about who I am and what I'm bringing to myself. And to the world. But at the night when I do that, it seems to be more about a gathering in. The other one seems to be more of an outflow. This is more of a gathering in, and so filled with gratitude.
And I love how you have a distinction between those two spaces. There's a lot of like reflecting and looking. One of the most powerful processes you can do at the end of the day is look at 3 wins. Right? 3 things that worked, 3 things that we focus on, we get more of. And we focus on, oh yeah, I did that well, I did this well. And then our mind is put into a place of positivity as we go into sleep, and we can access even greater access points in sleep if we set ourselves up in that place of flooding your body with gratitude, seeing the things that went well. Yeah, it's a beautiful time to do that.
I had a woman that I was talking with the other day, actually a good friend of mine, and she said, I'm just not sleeping well. I wish I could just like sleep better. I said, well, let's talk about your night and your routine. And I said, when do you have your last caffeine? Well, about when I go to bed. I go, okay, well, that's number 1. Do you know what I mean? And I said, and what are the last things you're doing? Well, I usually check my phone just before I go to bed, make sure there isn't anything I've missed or that I want to respond to. Okay, well, let's talk about that.
Yeah, watch the news or something.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. Let's talk about your routine from, say, 8 o'clock on as you're programming your body to just relax and sleep. So when do you eat last? Well, usually about 10. I'm like, okay, let's talk about when you're going to stop eating, I mean, all those things tune our bodies into that space. And we are 100% in control of our own selves and our bodies and what we choose to do with them, for the most part. Now, there are things that we are out of control of, but we are in control of how we deal with those things even. and how we perceive those things.
Yeah. And to that point is, I would say like 90% of what we do, say, think, and believe is subconscious. And so there's a lot, and I love in your book, you talk so much about the process of recognizing, taking radical responsibility, being like, looking at the fears, looking at what your mind is telling you. And you have to bring this stuff up out of the subconscious in order to actually transform it or change it. And a lot of what we're doing and we're in control to the point of being conscious of it. But there's so much that's just instinctual because of the programming we had as a child, right?
Yeah.
So many of the fears we have are just because when you were a child, something happened. Like you talk about that time on the slide with your dad, right?
Yeah.
You don't realize that had a programming and affected your entire life because when you were little, you made a decision about yourself about heights, right? So we're in control to the point of the consciousness of it. And so that's the beauty of going into the subconscious and then looking and taking a look and going, oh, that's what my belief is. That's the purpose of the fearful one. The fearful one is trying to keep me safe because it's afraid I'm going to die.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in going into this theta state, and I want you to know that I'm 100% on this page with you, that for us to be able to come to the realization of what's going on in our subconscious is probably one of the highest priority things we have in this life. Because if we don't, we will continue to be ruled by it. Because our conscious state is just such a small piece here in this little frontal lobe saying, hi, this is what your rational mind should tell you. And you have this huge piece back here that's just like saying, but, remember this and all these stuff going on, And so we've got to do that. So knowing that that's really a goal to become aware of what that entire back lobe is programming into us. You talked about hypnosis. I talked about meditation, and you talked about that as well. There's also now become very prominent in our society the use of plant medicine and journeys in that direction. Is that something that you ever use or recommend for people as well?
Absolutely. I think it's another access point to the subconscious. It's I think it's a very powerful tool that you have to be very conscious of how you use it, having a guide, having the preparation and the integration after. I think that the integration after plant medicine is just as important as the journey.
Absolutely.
Having a guide that's going to help. There's one thing to just go into plant medicine and think that your own mind is gonna figure out the way out.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, it can on plant medicine because it is so potent, and there's an element of the plant teaching you. And I've done support for ketamine, for other plant journeys for people, and the power of having a guide with you to
absolutely
have, to access your parts, to do the counsel work, to do the inner mind work in that space can be absolutely transformational. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the reason I brought this up, Paige, is that as much as it's being out there, it was always hush-hush before, it's been going on for a long time. It's hush-hush. Now it's very out in the open. But I've become aware of so many people who are using it as back when I was growing up in the 60s, we used many of these things as recreational, and I didn't use them very long, only my freshman year of college, and then I was done. But the difference between that and how it's being used now as to really a tool that nature has given us to help us understand this huge piece of us. But the value is very limited if you don't have a guide such as yourself or someone that can help you through what is being shown to you.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of people and they're finding benefit, but it's just a lot slower. It's a lot less effective, but there can be. And then there's also like trying to chase you'll do one, and I think the very first time you do plant medicine, it's a huge expansion of the mind. It kind of releases all these different boxes and boundaries, and you're able to kind of link a lot of things and see a lot of different things. And then it's the beautiful thing with, say, psilocybin or something like that is if you use it often, it's not as effective. In fact, you can't get addicted to it because it literally doesn't have an effect if you use it too much, right? So there's a lot of, it's a fascinating world. I mean, we could talk about psychedelics forever, but it's a really magnificent world. And I think it's beautiful that it's becoming something that is becoming legal. It's becoming more out in the open because for trauma, for relationship, for just being able to recognize those limiting beliefs that are running your programming, it's incredibly powerful. And I often say my sessions are like a 1-hour psilocybin journey. Like that's kind of how I describe my sessions. You come out feeling amazing, but you go into the subconscious, you kind of like see what's there, you get the visuals, and then you are able to transform and very consciously kind of see the purpose of what these parts are doing, or get the messages from your inner counsel, those kind of things in the journey that you come out without the substance. So I really like the idea that there's the mountain path and the jungle path. There's some people that it's all about the Tai Chi and the meditation and the going inward and doing, the daily path. And there you can reach enlightenment. You can touch the divine in those spaces. And you can also, the jungle path is kind of that psychedelic, like kind of like doing the different journeys, and you can touch the divine and experience really incredible things in that too. So it's just people have different paths.
And I love that you have this huge tool bag.
Yeah.
That as you work with people and you get to know them, you can recommend certain directions for them. For me, I found that so much of my healing came before this was popular. And so I ended up not using it as much as, other people may. My trauma did not involve deep childhood sexual abuse or deep abandonment and brutalization. And so it was easier for me to bring that to my own self-awareness because my memories were still with me. But so many people, their memories aren't with them anymore. And they have buried them so deep that, I don't know what, you need a chisel and a sledgehammer to get them undone. And that's where some of these other techniques, like, you offering hypnosis, offering plant medicine journeys, that can allow people to step into a space that would not have been available to them before.
It's the thing with, especially with intense acute trauma, is with hypnosis and with guided imagery and that kind of thing, when you can go deep into deep states of hypnosis, the mind is still only going to release what it's ready to release. And so there's a bit of like a safety mechanism there where you're not going to release like a massive amount of trauma and then be spiraling for months after. And sometimes with plant medicine, especially without guidance and support and that kind of thing, or even with it, like a lot of trauma can come up. And so you have to be really careful with that, especially with acute trauma. And just be ready. Like, there are going to be memories that come up, and to just have the support for you when you're dealing with that kind of thing, and the beauty and the freedom and the fact that we are able to be transformed. Transformation is possible. And I always say there are 3 steps to transformation. You first have to recognize it, and that's what the medicine does. A lot of times, even in the medicine or in these hypnosis sessions, these journeys, breakthrough sessions, you find the release. And that's the next step, is releasing the stuff that you recognize. Oh, like, I'm in victimhood. Oh, I was abused. I'm going to let that go. I'm going to let it go to the water, earth, fire, or to the divine, whatever you're letting it go, but you need to let it go. And then there's this void, this opening, this space within you. And so the third thing you need to be very conscious of is replacing it, and being conscious of what you're putting in that space once you create that vacuum, right? We can release things, and then just a whole bunch of other crap comes in, So
the idea of getting in touch with your higher self, the idea of becoming all that you can be, the idea that there are pieces inside of you yet unexplored, does it apply to some or to all?
My theory is that's why we're here, is to learn about ourselves, to, I love personality tests and the Enneagram and all these different things, because I just think it's fascinating to know more about who I am on the planet. And you talk so much about stepping into your purpose and becoming who you're here to be. And one of my favorite things to do is take people into this pre-birth council, this experience of going back, almost like right before they jumped off the cloud. And they have their guides and their spirit guides and their angels, and some people that even come down with them. But these people that they're like, I'm coming down and I want to learn this and this and this, and this is what I want to experience. And you feel the excitement, but you kind of get to see, oh yeah, this is why I'm here. And then you go, oh, that's why I had that horrible marriage. That's why I went through cancer. That's why, my friends in elementary school were this way, or my parents and my family are these people, right? It's because this is what I wanted. I chose into this. And so as we see, whether it's any of these modalities of getting really in tune with what our purpose is, it's it allows us, it gives us the permission to be the fullest expression of ourselves, which makes the world a better place, I
can remember times when I thought, there's no way I chose this. There's no way. I would not have chose these trials. I would not have chose this life. I would not have chose this direction. None of this can be true that you're telling me that I chose. But then that comes that point when you accept your life as a gift as opposed as a punishment. And you realize every single piece of my life has been a gift. All the trauma, obviously you've read my book, so, all the things that I dealt with, you just think, and now I can say, if I had not gone through that, I would not feel this. If I had not had that in my life, I would not allow this to be in my life. I would not have the appreciation for John now, that if I had not experienced what the other side looked like. There's so many things. I would not be so intent on keeping my body healthy and fit and ready to live life to the fullest if I hadn't experienced what life was like without health. And so they're all such a gift to us. You talk about how many people you have helped with this. So I think this will be our final topic. Who needs this? So, is this the person who is a successful entrepreneur that looks like they have the world by their tail? Is this the housewife who just doesn't even have the strength to get out of bed in the morning and face the world. Who is this for?
Yeah, yes. I mean, I've over the last 8 years, I've worked with all of them, right? I have some clients that are 12-year-olds and are amazing, you know. I also have stay-at-home moms. My primary and just part of the marketing of being a breakthrough coach is that I market to entrepreneurs. Really, I help anyone who wants better health, better relationships, and more wealth. And it's really breaking through the limiting beliefs that are stopping you, right? So right now I am doing a mastermind that's all about just choosing love over fear. We're looking fear straight in his face and seeing where it shows up in our life. We're looking at what love looks like. The idea and the concept of choosing love over fear is so simple, and yet you're in a situation where like, is this love or this is fear? Like, what is it? And so really getting clear about that, and then using this powerful concept of going into theta to reprogram, right? So
Yeah.
I have a group of people that I work with. I teach classes on it, and then I do one-on-one sessions. But I mostly advertise and promote to entrepreneurs. And then through word of mouth, I end up working with everyone, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of how it works. But yeah, I focus on those three things: health, wealth, and relationships.
Health, wealth, and relationship. And I think, having been a successful entrepreneur and having lived that life, and yet in the middle of that, knowing that there was something more, that reaching constantly for that success on earth and that wealth and the notoriety and the esteem and blah, 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 blah. That's maybe when you realize it the most. That when you have that, it's not the end. That there's something more to life. And in the search and the quest for that, just now encompasses and fills my life. And so I don't care whatever stage people are in, that they look to find you. They look to find a source that can assist them as a guide. I think that's why people listen to my podcast, is they're just looking for ideas, inspiration for that next step in their life.
Again, just back to that idea of spiraling up, right?
Yeah.
And knowing we're always on a journey of spiraling in one direction or another, and hopefully up. And yeah, that's part of my purpose on earth, is just to help people to spiral up into more light, love, and joy, and to happier lives. And it's fun to be on the journey when we can recognize that we're just on a constant path, rather than making ourselves wrong or making other people wrong for and making our situation wrong, right? And I think that's what really puts me into the most suffering is if I'm making it all wrong, and rather than just seeing it as one big journey, and that it's all going to be okay.
Paige, you are a delight. You are full of light and love, and that emanates from you, and it's so obvious. I feel like that this is your career. It's what you do, but it's also who you are. You're a healer, like me. And we desire to help and to lift. And we realize first it starts with us, and then with whatever little light we gain, we can lift and help others, and then it spirals up. So at the end of the podcast, listeners, you'll be able to find all the connections and the websites for Paige, and to follow her and read about her and all that she has to offer. And sometimes people are reluctant to even look because they think, oh, I can't afford that. Well, let's just look. Why don't you just look? And maybe you're part of a mastermind class instead of the individual therapy stuff that she does. And there's always help for everyone. And I never want anyone to have the fear of that it's not for me. I'm not enough to be able to have that. That healing is there for everyone.
There is. And I wanted to actually make an offer, because I have just a meditation, like 20-minute meditations, where you can go in and meet your not enough one. and watch her transform and do just a meditation. I wanted to create it for your listeners and for the people, because not enough is just at the beginning of your book and all throughout of like, this is something that stops us from stepping into this life that we love and this magnificent. You're such an inspiration, Mary, of a person that has stepped into fearlessness and courage and creating so much good in the world, but creating a life that you love. And so I wanted to offer that. And so if you go to happyithappened.com and register there, there's a free webinar class that you can just watch, but I will also send you the recording of the meditation so you can experience it for yourself, have your own transformation.
Oh, I love that. What a gift you have offered to our listeners, that they can actually talk to that person that's not enough and welcome them into the light. I love that. I love that. That's beautiful. We'll include that link at the end of the podcast as well. And I will promote that on my own social media so that anyone can have the opportunity to step in and feel the love for themselves. It's what this is all about. When I wake up in the morning now, I'm full of gratitude for who I am and for people like you, Paige, who offer a light, a big light on the path to say, can I help you find the way? You don't have to be lost. Thank you.
So grateful for you too, Mary. Thank you for having me on. I so appreciate it.
All right, sweetheart. Thank you so much. And listeners, be sure and look for the link and then reach out to me if you have any questions about Paige and you're not able to find her. Just let me know and I will help you along the way. So please know that we are all here for each other every single day because we're all about crafting our meaningful lives. Namaste.
Crafting a Meaningful Life.